everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Chocolate Life Live. My name is Clay Gordon. I am your host and moderator. I'm also the creator of TheChocolateLife.com. Today, we are going to be revisiting the 2023 online Craft Chocolate Challenge tasting that my co-host today, who is Dustin Cornett. Hey, Dustin, how are you today?
Good. How you doing?
So we're going to go and review that. And if you see that I'm sort of not paying attention, it's for some reason we can't get the live stream synced up onto LinkedIn. And so I'm sitting here going, okay, why isn't this not working on LinkedIn? So I'm clicking on that. Hopefully I'll be able to get the LinkedIn connection working in the next little while. But until then, Dustin, let's talk about the 2023 challenge and then what's going on with the 2024 challenge. So here is the homepage of here's the homepage of the Craft Chocolate Challenge website. The link to this is in the description for today's live stream. And what I'd like to do, Dustin, is because I know you have to leave a little bit early, so let's do these things out of order, is let's talk about season 3 of the Craft Chocolate Challenge. What's going up for 2024?
Yeah, so season 3 is opened up for registration. We always allow a long window of time because we understand the schedules of chocolate makers, as I am a chocolate maker. So we don't want you to send your bars if you're not ready, and I can receive them anytime within that window and keep them ready for judging. So that is open and ready to go. So you can follow the links online to register and enter. And a entry becomes official once I actually receive the chocolate, because we don't actually charge anything for entry. So that is a way of us to make something official. So season 3 is here, and it's really exciting because of the growth of the past 2 seasons. I expect a lot of growth this season as well. And we've been able to add some fun things like the virtual tasting that we're going to be talking a little bit about today. And we're going to try to, continue to keep those things as we continue the challenge. Another great thing is we've created a new award, not a new category, but a new award called the Innovation Award. And that is a way for us to really celebrate creativity, new ways of making different blends or recipes of chocolate and all kinds of fun stuff there. And Clay can definitely chime in and tell you more about it because he was part of that process of creating that. And it's sponsored by Cocoa Supply to make a new award for it. So we're pretty excited about all that.
Yeah, Dustin, there's one thing I'd like to just mention as a part of this. And what I want to do is I want to welcome everybody on LinkedIn. It took a couple of minutes. And it looks like the connection to LinkedIn is really, really, really unsteady. So we were up for a second, we're down for a second. I'm going to do my best to make sure that we can connect. But Dustin, if we go and we look at the homepage of the next season change for the Craft Chocolate Challenge, what we can see is the enter button. So if you want to enter, you just click on the button. If you're a chocolate maker, you can click on the button. But it's a 2-step process. Could you explain the process of entering because of this 2-step thing?
So first process is to fill out the form. So you go through and whatever chocolate you want to send, you find the appropriate category for that: dark flavored, milk flavored, white flavored, or an inclusion, which is something that has unground or some type of coarse like ingredient on top or inside the bar. And you find that, you fill out everything, and then you submit it. I will receive that. If you're an international entry, I'll contact you pretty soon about giving you other information you might need for those shipping forms. But I'll contact you and kind of let you know, hey, got it. Let me know when you ship your chocolate, because I'll watch for it in the post to make sure everything arrives in good condition and whatnot, and also let you know when I do receive it. But it's not official until I do receive it. And if you stay in communication with me, that's very helpful. As the challenge grows, we definitely cap entries. We want our judges to be comfortable doing what they're doing, because the feedback is the number one thing for me. I don't want to overwhelm the judges. So we do cap the categories. Like 25 is the maximum we do per category, which for dark chocolate, it will probably be capped this year. So just stay in communication with me. If something happens where I have to accept 26 or 27 in that category, I will do it, but there has to be rules in place to make sure that, it's not overwhelming for anybody. So that is kind of the procedure of things. Once your bars are in too, I will promote you on Instagram. So if you want me to say anything particular about why you do what you do, let me know and I'll put that in the post and showcase the chocolate that you've sent us, because that's part of what we're doing here.
Great. And before we jump into the next aspect of this, I want to give a quick shout out to Mike King from Encore Coffee, who's connecting from St. Louis, Missouri. No, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm sorry. So Kansas City, you want to get that right. I want to do also a quick shout out to Chef Jeffrey Gardner from Arsata Chocolate in Torrance, California. He says his son's name's in Dustin, so he already really, really likes you, Dustin. Good thing there. And then for Elmer Pineda, who is a regular visitor here to the Chocolate Life Live. He's here in the United States at the moment. He's originally from Honduras. Pleasure to see you both. Happy to be a part of the Craft Chocolate Challenge tasting Roundup, TCL Live finale. Yeah, absolutely. And before we jump into the tasting part of this, what I want to do is I want to explain what the TCL Live finale means, which is this is the last episode of the Chocolate Life Live. After a nearly 2-year, 146 episode run, becoming this coming Friday. So with the next episode, I'm changing the focus and changing the branding, and it's going to be called Pod Save Chocolate. So I'm still going to be here. It's not going away. It's just that the emphasis, the branding, what it is I'm talking about, how I'm going to be talking about things is going to be changing starting with this coming Friday's episode. Just wanted to let everybody know about that. So cheers. Yeah. If you're watching, for some reason, LinkedIn is broken today. And so I'm going to have to go in after the fact and, hopefully people will be resilient enough to go to the Chocolate Life and find another place to watch this, either on Facebook or on YouTube. So hopefully they'll migrate. But I don't know in the middle of a live stream how to create a new connection anyway, because it's never happened to me before that this is done. But anyway, Dustin, let's just go back into this again. So this is a page on the Craft Chocolate Challenge website. As I said, there's a link to it from the post for today's episode. And what you've done is one of the things I like about working with you and the relationship we've had is that you're being upfront about how many people are entering and where, at least not where exactly all of the entries are coming from here. We know something about the profile of the entries. And so why is this for you so important?
It's very important.
As the organizer of this competition.
Well, transparency in general is a great thing, and in craft chocolate, it is the thing. So why not be transparent about what we're doing? There's really nothing to hide. There's no money involved. We get our money from sponsors and donations. So knowing how many entries there are, you can't figure out how much money we're making off of it because it doesn't cost anything to enter. So that doesn't matter about any of that at all. And it's about basically spotlighting these craft chocolate makers. Most of them are going to be younger, just new in the business, smaller in general. They could benefit from the promotion that we're able to give them by putting them on our website, linking to their site, enticing people to buy their chocolate even before it's judged, just because we're talking about it and we're introducing people to these new brands and things like that. That's what we want to do. That's the goal. So yeah, let's be as clear as we possibly can. And if I find a good way to put the country to it too, I know you always want me to put the country next to it, and I have no problem doing that. So I need to find a good format to add the country of origin of the chocolate maker to that as well.
Right. Well, this is done in terms of all the winning entries. So that is very true. And I think that's good. But one of the things that happens is here's the season 1, right, winners. So we then know the number of entries and in what categories there were. And so here's the season 2 winners. And so you can see the growth, right? More countries, more entries, right? And when season 3 rolls around, we'll see how the competition is growing that way. So
so if I can jump in real quick here,
yeah.
During the registration time of the the current season before the judging happens, I always list which bars have been entered by, which companies where you can, connect to them. But after that season's over and winners are announced, I go in there and just put the winners of that season. And I've created an alumni kind of page, to let you know
Mhm.
who has actually been in the contest before, so you can still click, and connect with those makers that have participated before, because it's kind of a difficult contest to win. We don't have that
So
many awards that we do.
explain
So
that if you can. Explain why is this a difficult challenge to win in?
so I know we have less entries into our contest compared to other contests, but we only have three winners. So there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze of each category. No ties. That's it. So it's a bit challenging to actually win. And if we max it out at 25, that's the case. If it's 10 that's entered, that's the case. That the number of winners stays the same no matter what. We do the top overall. So the top overall meaning all the categories are combined. So this year we actually had one from each category be that case, but it doesn't always have to fall like that.
It's just the three entries that have the cumulative highest score.
Yeah. So
right.
Those are the top overall. And this go around for season 4, I've created a new style of award, because if you win your category, to be a top overall, you're going to have to win or place in your category. It's just how it's going to work. So I didn't want to continue to send the same type of award, just the top change. So the circular awards are going to remain the top overall, but I've created a new style of award for the dark milk, white, and inclusion category that is more of a chocolate bar shape. So becoming a top overall, it won't repeat of the same type of physical award that you get. So I thought that was a good take. We needed money to get to that point for new awards and things like that, and we were able to secure that. So made it happen.
Great. I also want to point out that one things that happens is that as part of the process, Dustin is posting profiles of who the judges are. One of the things that I know, as a critic, is that it helps my audience understand what my preferences are and what my background is. For example, I would say, my introduction to craft chocolate and single origin chocolate was Bona back in 1994. And so to this day, which is what, 20 some odd years, almost 20 years later, 30 years later. Oh my gosh. What my ideal is for a bar of chocolate is very, very much rooted in that 1994 experience. And so we do so you do publish profiles, not the names. The judges remain anonymous, but we know who they are. And if anybody is interested in it, I am judge number 9. Right.
Yeah,
right. So
I leave it up to the judge at their discretion
yeah.
to let people know. And a lot of them online, especially chocolate tasters that we've picked or chocolate reviewers, kind of let the cat out of the bag. Perfectly fine. I just want to make sure the judges can be as honest as they possibly can, because the feedback part is the goal.
Great. Okay. And so I just want to let everybody know is that we're going to be jumping into the tasting very, very shortly, but we're going to be running the tasting in the order that we did on Sunday evening, which is we're going to be starting within the bronze category. So we're going to go through the bronze awards first. First inclusions, then milk or white, then milk, then dark, then moving to silvers, inclusions, white, milk, dark, and then golds, inclusions, white, milk, dark. Just to let everybody know, for me, it made more sense to do it that way than to do all of the darks together, all the milks together, all the whites together, and all the inclusions together. Just from a variety perspective, I wanted to do that. I also want to take a really quick second to share some information that I will be putting in the post for today's live stream. Some of which is already there, but I will be doing things very, very differently. There are some things I'm not going to be able to share, so I'm not going to do it. So the first thing I've shared is this is my pyramid tasting worksheet. So this is the way I act as the head judge for this competition. So this is the way I approach my evaluation when I do tasting classes, and this influenced the way that Dustin and I thought about the judging guidelines. So what it is that we're looking to do. I also have, we're also going to be posting the actual judging guidelines that the judges were given. And so you'll be able to say, this is the process that we asked the judges to consider as they were going through. Now, this is how they're reporting the results, which is really, really important. This is how they're reporting the results. If somebody had gone through, like, you know, a formal evaluation program like the International Institute for Cocoa and Chocolate Tasting, they could use their approach as long as they reported the results according to this sort of framework, which is more based, I think, on sort of like a tier list format rather than some other format. So like, which one of these are superior, which one of these are very good, which one of these are just ordinary, which ones of these are bad. So that's the basic approach here. I'm going to make sure that this document is in the post for today's live stream after the fact. And I'm also going to be publishing a PDF. So this is the document, this is the template. So I received one of these documents for every single bar I was asked to judge. So I had, 49 of them or something like that, Justin, made it into the actual final judging round?
Yeah, so you had some that were just review only. So it was about up to that number compared to the difference of which were in the contest. Right. But yeah, I make every one of those for every bar that comes in. So we have the ingredients that are, put into the form when they sign up, but I also check the back of the packaging and make sure those line up, and the size of the bar and the retail price too. We want the retail price because we want to say to people, if this is maybe a problem, that you might need to think about lowering the price a bit comparably, or maybe your price is too low and you can maybe go up more. Like, all these things are important. So I try to gather all the information, put it in one little form for everybody to have at their disposal. And then when they sit down and they have the chocolate in front of them, they can just go to town.
Well, I can say as a judge that this is really unusual. Most of the chocolate tastings that I do, most of the competitions that I would do, there's an effort to make them blind tastings. So you've got a tray of chocolates. They're just labeled as A, B, C, D, E, F, and G for the particular flight that you're doing, or there's a number, right, within a category. And so we don't know unless we recognize the mold. And if there are some very, very distinctive molds, and so that this particular bar comes from this particular maker. But in this particular case, we are not judging blind. We know the name of the maker. We know a lot about the bar, ingredients for one, the price of the bar, and things like that. The maker might have some notes about the bar that they want the judges to consider as a part of this, maybe a question that they're asking that they want particular feedback for. And so this is one of the reasons why I, as a judge, think this competition, this challenge, is really, really interesting, because it's focused on a different set of issues. It's focused on a different set of challenges, right? And so the goal here is not just awarding a gold, silver, and a bronze, but it's how do we help perhaps smaller makers who are not ready to enter into bigger international competitions, right, to improve what it is that they're doing. And I don't know of any other competition, maybe the Northwest Chocolate Festival does that, where they have an award for packaging, but I don't necessarily know that they do feedback for packaging as a part of what's going on. Anyway, so it's been fun for me as a judge, because the format is entirely different.
Yeah,
Now,
I say that we're not really here to label the world's best chocolate, but to help you make your best chocolate. It's kind of like that. So we give it the attention and details that you need.
Gotcha. So Dustin, I don't
It
know
happens a lot.
why.
It happens. A lot.
It's like I should know better by now, and I think I've done it at least 3 times this morning. Dustin, so knowing that you have a back end on your schedule that we need to be aware of, let's start the tasting. So again, we're going to be going. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that people will be able to do a better job of reading it. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going from bottom right up to the top, and then the middle column, and then the right column. And we have to motor through this because we're already a third of the way through. So when we decided, I thought this would take 90 minutes. We ended up taking 2.5 hours. to get through the entire tasting. It was really good. So, Dustin, tell us a little bit about Moku Chocolate. And the reason why I want you to tell us about Moku Chocolate is because if there was a company that crushed the first round,
Yeah, the
the first
inaugural
edition of
year.
this, it was Moki. It was Moku.
It's like, should we just rename the challenge Moku? Come on.
Right.
Yeah, they Maureen just dominated year one, and rightfully so with her chocolate. It's amazing. It's really good chocolate. I like the texture myself, the smoothness of it. And when it came to this bar, because I love the smoothness of her chocolate so much, the actual inclusion took away from that. For me personally, just because of my preferences there. So I would actually want to have that chocolate without the orange in it, as compared to with the orange zest, because it was a great bar.
So it's a 70% dark chocolate using Madagascar beans from Bajofo Estate. The chocolate itself is smooth, and I would think that this is one of the more polarizing bars, right, in terms of from the judging perspective, as well as from the people who were in the tasting on Sunday evening, is that for a lot of people, the texture of the inclusion somewhat overwhelmed the perception of the chocolate. Is that your memory as well?
Yeah,
people like the chocolate, they just weren't certain about the orange.
And then other people really love that crunch, and then they're telling us, hey, just don't let the chocolate melt, just crunch it, eat it that way.
Yeah,
and then, then you'll enjoy it differently. So everybody's got their own preferences, but her chocolate is always phenomenal. So
yeah, eat it like you would a candy bar rather than a chocolate bar. I mean, which is an interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah, I go both ways. I mean, trying to let it melt to get the aroma of the chocolate and flavor of the chocolate, just get an idea about how well made the chocolate is, and then just enjoying the textural sensation. For me, as a judge, I really like this, right, for exactly that reason. And this is one of those bars that I would like to engage other judges in around the concept of innovation. Right, we think about craft chocolate in a very particular way, and this is somebody who's known for a very particular style of chocolate, but we have something which is very, very different, which is, I think, really, 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 really cool, and one of the reasons why I liked it. So, Dustin, unfortunately, and this is just the nature of the business, is between the time we gave a company award and the time we came to do the tasting, the company closed its doors. And so we have a company from Wisconsin, I believe, correct? Mousy.
Michigan.
Get those two mixed up all the time. Sorry, Wisconsinites and Michiganders, for getting those two mixed up. But they went out of business. They had a very, very interesting white chocolate coffee bar, which they called a French au lait bar. And so we couldn't actually get that bar for the tasting. So you jumped in and provided one of your bars, which was a coconut milk chocolate using beans from the Philippines. And you said that, at any time after you discuss this bar, you may have to jump off because you have other things to do today. But talk a little bit about this particular bar, not necessarily why you chose it to replace the Mousy bar, but talk about your journey as a chocolate maker and your thoughts about this bar in particular.
I wanted to do a dairy-free milk chocolate bar, and it was important to be able to make it vegan for this area that I'm in. I wanted to kind of have a good vegan milk bar for people, not just the dark chocolate that I do. And I thought coconut would be the right way to go instead of oat milk at first. And I liked how it matched with the cacao I had from the Philippines. So I went with that matchup, and it worked pretty well. I like it. It is a little bit on the sweet side. I think if I was to redo it, I might up the cacao percentage a bit. I didn't anticipate the coconut flavor would come through as much as it did. But it does, and it makes it a little bit sweeter than some of the other bars that I have. But some people like it because it is sweeter too. So it is what it is there. But I might bump it up to a 50 or even a 55. I do a 66 dark chocolate with lavender, dark milk chocolate with lavender. That So I could go between that range if I wanted because of the coconut there. But I like how it turned out. I sent it to do this tasting because of the contrast of things. I just wanted to throw something a little bit sweeter in there, something a little bit different, just to kind of balance some other things out. So that's why I threw it in. And also, it gave an opportunity to discuss innovation awards and things about polarizing bars. I won a bronze for that in the International Chocolate Awards. But when I was checking the feedback, it was really polarizing. So I would have one
Yeah.
judge all the way to one side and one all the way to the other. So part of it's probably the sweetness, and then the coconut there. And when they do the flavor wheel and all that, definitely coconut is a dominant thing. And some people would want a little bit more, cacao chocolate flavor in there, but so it kind of polarized that way. So I thought it would be a good talking point to throw that one in. So that's why.
Yeah, I agree. Just, in case anybody wants to go into the grocery store and do this exercise themselves, go to the coconut water aisle and then select some coconut where the origin of the coconut water, where the origin is Brazil, and then another water where the origin is the Philippines. And they're profoundly different. I mean, the Brazilian stuff has a tendency to be a little bit acidic and slightly sour, and the Philippine coconut has a tendency to be much, much sweeter and purer flavor. And that's what rings through here for me, right? Is that there's a difference between Philippine coconut and Brazilian coconut in terms of the flavor of the water. That comes through here. And we're talking about Philippine cocoa beans, and so it makes an enormous amount of sense that those two things are together as well. It's very, very complementary. I agree with you. It's a little sweet for my taste. I think it might be interesting to give people the opportunity to do a 45, right, as opposed to a 65, and see where they go, and then pick one over the other. Just as a sort of social media thing, buy both, right, and vote. And whichever one you think is best, I will do. Or there's a way to go about doing it from that perspective, which I think could be really, really interesting. But I think that knowing what it is that I know about the international awards, it's not surprising that this placed right in a place for an award, but that it was also all over the map in terms of the judges' feedback. I completely understand why that is. If you can join us for a second, and Mike, if you're still in the room, so this is Mike at Encore Coffee. This is your bar, right? So this is beans from Coco Camilli. It's a 50%, what we would consider to be a dark milk chocolate. Dustin, if you can give us a little bit of your thoughts from what you remember it. I know you said you didn't have any props, and of course, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you're here for as long as you're here. So. What do you think? What do you think about this bar? So we're now at the best bronze category, best milk chocolate.
Great bar. Really enjoyed it. Going into it, I'm thinking about the origin. So like even before I'm tasting it, I'm thinking about how it might taste. So I see the Tanzania on there, and then I see the milk, and I'm just wondering, is it going to be too fruity to pair well with this milk for me? How's it going to go? Where's the creaminess? How's it going to be? But I wasn't actually overwhelmed with fruitiness that I am sometimes when I have a Tanzania Coco Camilli bar. So I actually think it worked really well. And I'm not sure if that was some of his roasting that influenced that or not, but it was really creamy, really smooth, nice chocolate, like milk chocolate bar. Good job, man.
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, Dustin, there was a little bit of audio breakup and the video dumped for a little while. But I'll try to summarize. Number one, first thing is that Encore is a coffee roasting company, and so Mike is coming to his beans from his experience roasting coffee, as opposed to somebody who has only roasted cocoa from the very beginning. So it's a different understanding of the roasting process. You're right. Tanzania has a tendency to be very, very fruity, often cherry, right? And while we think of as strawberry milk, cherry milk is not something we would normally think of as doing. But when you think about sort of red fruit and dairy, it goes together in that way, right? But however, Mike did roast the beans. And he responded, he's convinced that the roasting in his forced air roaster is the key. So I've been to the factory outside Kansas City. I did when I was there, when I made my trip from the East Coast to the West Coast, or here to Prescott, had a chance to see what he's doing. He's got a drum coffee roaster. And one of the secrets, not one of the secrets, but one of the techniques that many coffee roasters use is they can change the amount of air, which is not just the temperature of the air, but the amount of air which is going through the roaster during the roasting process. And so if you're doing a dark sort of wet process coffee, you'd have a very low air volume because you want to keep that sort of deep funk. But if you want something like an Ethiopian, which is very sort of delicate and winey, you might put a lot more air through it in order to bring out that characteristic of the bean. And so one of the great things about having a professional drum roaster is to have this forced air capability, because it gives you a measure of control over the flavor that you wouldn't have if you're using, for example, a converted convection oven, which has got no forced air, no control over how the air travels through the cavity of the roaster. So definitely that way. And I would, again, in order to be able to have gotten to this level, just the assumption is the chocolate is well made. There are no obvious defects which are going to say, we don't want to recognize this as a very, very high quality bar. With each of the judges having a different definition of what quality is in that particular respect. But yeah, really, really well liked by the judges overall. And I think, again, when we talked to some of the people who were in the tasting on Sunday, there was this initial confusion, right, or among the experienced tasters about what Tanzania would mean from a flavor profile before they began, right? So it was great. So we round up the bronze category with, again, Moku. So Nicaragua.
I'm gonna jump off here though.
You're gonna jump. Okay.
I'm gonna jump. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. For the Craft Chocolate Challenge. It's amazing. It makes my heart warm. So thank you, and yeah, I will talk to you guys a little bit later.
So great, Dustin. Thank you very much for joining today and being a part of this. And what I do want to let people know is that after the 2024 challenge, which you're going to be judging in February, March of next year, we are again going to be doing an online tasting of all of the winners. So, so I have a lot of experience tasting beans from Nicaragua. I was a consultant to Ingemann for a number of years. This is also a very interesting mold, and I'm sure that Moku got a lot of very, very interesting feedback on the mold that they're using. It's the same thickness. It breaks up easily. And again, we have is a very, very well made chocolate, very, very rounded chocolate. The bite on it is very clean. The chew on it is really, really nice. And the melt is very, very clean as well. There's a little bit of dustiness in this version. I mean, we are not tasting the bars that were judged, because the bars that were judged were manufactured at least 6 months ago. But there is a reason why the chocolate maker is named Maureen Nikaido and Moku. There's a reason why Moku has done well in the Craft Chocolate Challenge Awards. The stuff is always well made. It's always interesting, and it's always worth having a taste of, just to see another point of view. And if you can see here, let me jump to here. The artwork on the front, they're very, very, very attractive bars. And this one has also won a Good Food Award. I'm not certain what year that is. And so this would be something that I would advise people to do when they're putting awards on their bars, and letting people know what year the award is, because if this was a 2020 award for a bar made in 2023, it sets people's expectations in a very different place just to do that. All right. So having gone from that, we've just taken the bronze category. Let's jump into silver. And we're going to go for the inclusion bar. And this is from a company called Kesho. I believe the original founders of the company were from China, and some of the entries that they did use beans from China. Very, very difficult to find. In general, we liked the, let me change the view here. We like the mold. I mean, it just, every single one of these bars, the temper on this was great. You can see the shine is great. I'm not really a fan of bars like this because, or molds this shape, because number one, it's impossible to break this up into pieces of equal size. So if you're doing a tasting, somebody might get a big piece and somebody might get a small piece. And because of the hills and the valleys, the people will be getting very different texture impressions. So as a judge, bars like this are really hard to judge. Also, we're not tasting this in the form that it was presented for the judge. So originally it was batons, sort of like oversized Kit Kats, and rather than layers of biscuit, it was these cocoa nibs, which had been soaked in what they call mulled wine. And this is a mixture of Cointreau rum and Marsala with cinnamon, which is not what, I mean, my sense of what a mulled wine is. But this is another bar that polarized our tasting panel on Sunday. People either really liked it or really didn't. Part of it was around this confusion about, is this really mulled wine or not? And also, excuse me while I crunch, is that the flavor of the bar is very much dependent upon the quantity of nibs in any particular bite. And there are some places where there are a lot of nibs, and there are some places where there are fewer nibs. But this is a bar that you're either going to really like or really not like. I think it's a polarizing bar. But the chocolate itself is very well made. And so the Kesho line, it's got a lot of interesting flavor combinations. There's another one we'll talk about in a little while, but worthwhile. This one is worth seeing if you like it. If you really like it, then you're really going to like it. And I can see it. I mean, this was, I think, the only bar in the collection that we've got here is I could see this really wanting to have this with a glass of wine, and actually with a glass of mulled wine would be a good one, or Marsala or a port, or not straight Cointreau, not a liqueur that way. But I think it is a bar that lends itself to a wide range of wine styles and pairing. So it's interesting also from that point of view. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked about this bar. But one of the challenges is we're now tasting things not in the format in which they were judged. And so moving to the next category, which is the best white chocolate bar. And oh, by the way, in case it wasn't obvious, there are 4 categories. It's dark, milk, white, and inclusions. And the way it works is it's plain and flavored dark chocolate bars. Right? And then plain and flavored milk and plain and flavored white. And then bars with inclusions could either be the dark or milk or white, right? As long as it had some element which provided a texture to the bar. That was the way Dustin had put it together. So we got this bar from Tandy Peterson at Embers, and she's down in Phoenix, so not far from where I am. And I'm looking at the bar, and it's confusing to me because, I mean, half of the bar had no inclusions on it, and the other half of the bar did. And the reason why is that when we judged the bar, it didn't have any inclusions in it, and the bar she's now selling does have inclusions. So she did a special run of bars for the tasting. Thank you very much, Tandy, for doing that. Which said, here's the way the bar is judged, was judged, and here's the way I'm selling it now. Just really nice anticipation, and it's a thought that we really loved. So this bar has got a lot going on, and one of the reasons why I like to judge as a judge, I love judging white chocolate and flavored white chocolate categories and bonbon categories, because people are, you can be more creative than if you're doing another 70% two ingredient Madagascar from the Chofo estate, right? You can, there are a lot more things. But this bar is got coconut flake, pistachios, oats, cacao nibs, kefir lime leaf, ginger, wasabi powder, matcha, right? And for the bar that we judged, it was just the kefir lime, ginger, wasabi powder, and matcha, in addition to the cocoa butter and the sugar. And it's interesting here, I actually don't see any milk here. So I'm wondering if this is in fact technically a white chocolate. All right. Anyway, but something to consider. And we're actually entertaining the idea for the 2025 challenge of entering non-chocolate bar category of creating one. So anything which has got, you know, flavored cocoa butter, for example, cocoa butter with things which are refined in. But anyway, this is, if you like Thai food, I mean, you put your nose to this, and it's a subtle but delicate It's just, the delicacy of this is really interesting. I happen to love the flavors of Thai food. There is, with the wasabi, a little hint of heat on the back of the throat. It's just cocoa butter, right? So the melt is insane, right? And then the inclusions provide a texture. And a whole other range of flavors. I mean, this is a really fun bar. And, you know, Tandy comes from a culinary background, not necessarily a chocolatier background. And so all of her bars have this sort of playful approach to flavors and ingredients. I mean, really, really lovely. Again, Embers is in Phoenix. And what I'm going to try to do, I haven't done it yet, is for some reason, these aren't links. It's just the winner name. And so I may put links to the company's websites in the post. So as with every one of these things, I have a post for today's live stream. And what I will do is I've uploaded the pyramid tasting worksheet. There's a link to the Craft Chocolate Challenge website. And it would be better if what I did is I shared with you that page before you do it. So this is the page on the Chocolate Life. All right. What I'll do is I will put links to the winner's website. So if you're interested in contacting them directly, you can contact them directly. Unfortunately, you know, one of the winners is in Japan, the other one is in Norway, and there's a challenge to get the chocolate into the United States. That's something that Dustin and I may be working on, but it's something to think about. You know, we need to think about going forward, and we will. So let's go back. So moving up from the best white chocolate in the silver category, we have Gansett Craft Chocolate, and they're out of Rhode Island, Wakefield, Rhode Island. I spent 4 years in Providence at the Rhode Island School of Design, or 3 years in Providence at the Rhode Island School of Design, and so I've been to Wakefield. I have an aunt that used to live in Wakefield, and so there's love to just. This feels in many respects like going home. And I think overall, when it came to judging the packaging, this is the packaging that the judges thought stood out. Not only do we have this gold here, which is a signifier of quality, what you have is it's also embossed. It's a very, very lovely presentation. Inside is a rather generic flow wrap, but the flow wrap means you can stick your nose in it, and you can work with it. I think that one of the challenges with, for example, saying this is Peruvian chuncho cacao, is that those of us who have experienced tasting, right, like we did with Mike's Tanzanita bar, the Coco Camilli, there's an expectation of what Coco Camilli is, right, that we're trying to match to our expectations of what the bar is. And I wouldn't say that there's anything, you know, particularly specific about chuncho in this bar. Incredibly well made. The melt is really, really nice. And the tasting notes are creamy cocoa with hints of caramel. And I'm a big fan of dark milk chocolates, when I'm eating recreationally rather than professionally. Dark milks are my go-to. So I'm a really big fan of dark milk chocolates. And this is one that I would have on the shelf if I were doing it. It's comforting. It's not challenging, it's comforting. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. Finishing up on the silver awards category is Fjorden. So this is from Norway. I realize I just changed. I'll come back. I wanted to show this. So Fjorden Chocolat from Norway, a 70% dark from the Philippines. And this is this packaging is one of the reasons why we provide feedback in packaging. If you go to the thumbnail for today's live stream, what you'll do is you'll see this bar that Dustin is holding, and this, let me share my screen again because I'm getting ahead of myself. This is the original format of the bar that Kjell sent us to, and as a result of the feedback, he changed the packaging. And this is one of the great things that we like to see, that that the people who are participating in the challenge are taking advantage of the feedback and improving their product. So it's really, really important for us. It was really, really exciting. However, right, we're not tasting the thing that we judged, so it's challenging in that respect. So, and one of the things that I liked about this is just the real strong use of of all of the real estate. Right, there's no panel on here that doesn't contain information. And the other thing we really liked, and I think that more chocolate makers should get into or should consider, is being funny, adding humor to their labeling. Right. So, for example, as part of his ingredients list is after cocoa beans, sugar, and cocoa butter, it says nothing else is needed for chocolate bliss. Right, so really, really fun. And under the Best By disclaimer at the bottom, it says best before, but not at all bad after this date. Fun use of humor. People who will look at this will go, will get an idea. The bar itself is a pretty standard bar. And looking back at my tasting notes and listening and tasting this one, while the flavor of this is wonderful, I mean, it starts off fruity. It's got this strong chocolate finish. It's not quite as refined. There's a little bit of dustiness in the texture, but I mean, wow. I mean, the roller coaster of flavor that this bar delivers is really, really, really wonderful to go through. So I really do recommend. And again, Dustin and I are going to be talking to Kjell at Fjorden Chocolat. We're going to see if we can get some of his bars into the country and make them available to people who'd like to use them. If you would like that, so there's two. We have Sweets Escalier, which we haven't got to yet, from Japan and Fjorden in Norway. If you'd like us to see about how we might organizing getting some of these bars into the United States, if you'd like to taste them, throw us into the comments. Please let us know if these are things you'd like to try, because getting one bar from Norway or one bar from Japan is going to be an expensive thing to do. So please. So at this point, what I want to do is we're going to jump into the gold medal winners, the gold awardees. And we're going to start off with the inclusion. And I want to let you know that this best inclusion gold, right, was the second most highly rated bar in the challenge. So when we say top overall gold, top overall silver, top overall bronze, right, you get an idea of where things are. So this was the second highest placing. So it won gold in inclusions, but second highest placing bar overall. And you know, for those of you who may or may not know, I do a Chocolate Life members AMA one Sunday a month. And Mark Joyce, who is the chocolate maker, he and his wife Yuri run this business in Colorado. He is perhaps the most prolific participant in my members AMA calls, my monthly AMA calls. And this is a bar which I'm particularly proud of because I had a hand in the ingredient selection for this bar. So it uses Dutch beet sugar, but the Dutch beet sugar that Mark uses is something called bastard suiker. And bastard suiker is a protected designation of origin. So, if you want to be called bastard suiker, it needs to be made a particular way, and it can only come from the Netherlands. So cool, right? But what makes bastard suiker unusual is it contains a percentage. So it's a dry sugar, a granulated sugar, but it contains a percentage of inverted sugar. And so inverted sugar like honey or glucose syrup. And so what it does is it affects the moisture or the perception of moisture in what it is that you're eating. And so Mark caramelizes the sugar and the milk powder in an oven, puts them into the refiner with undeodorized cocoa butter. It's Ecuadorian cocoa butter. And then throws in roasted hazelnut pieces onto the top of this thing. And, if there was one bar, I think, which, rose to the top among the people who joined us on Sunday for the tasting, this is one of the bars that rose to the top. Everybody went, yum, 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 yum. I mean, this is, even if you proclaim that you don't like white chocolate, if you're a fan of any of the caramelized white chocolates from any manufacturer, even Valronis Dulce, which is probably the OG of this category commercially, and you like hazelnuts, this is a fabulous, fabulous bar. The mold is beautiful. It breaks up easily, so it's easy to share with people. This is a great bar, and I have to admit, that in the development process of this, Mark sent me a version of this chocolate with regular beet sugar, as well as this bastard suiker. The differences are incredibly subtle, but also incredibly profound. And I think that, one of the questions that was asked, had I ever done a milk powder tasting? So, I got 4 or 5 or 6 different milk powders. How are they different? I've never done a milk powder tasting, but I have done sweetener tastings. How are sugars very different? And then how does that sugar change the flavor of the chocolate that is made from it? And, Mark is very, very careful. He uses a specific milk. I think he said it was from Indiana. He uses a specific sugar. And he was very, very careful. I'm talking about how the choices influenced this. Again, even if you don't like white chocolate, if you are a fan of so-called caramelized or blonde white chocolates, you need to go take a look at this bar. It's amazing. Whether you have it for yourself or whether you gift it for someone else who is a chocolate lover, I mean, yeah, this is, this has been open for 2 days now, and the fact that there's any left is remarkable, because I just want to finish the whole thing in one go. So I need to exercise restraint. And when I know that I need to exercise restraint, that's a sign of an interesting bar. So if we go to the best white chocolate in the category, in terms of the Gold Award winners, we have another company that won 2 awards. So Kesho won 2. We'll get to that. But this, the next one from Gansett Chocolate in Wakefield, Rhode Island, is a Rhode Island coffee milk. And having spent 3 years in Rhode Island, understanding what coffee milk is and how coffee milk is different from a regular a regular coffee. So regular coffee in New York is black. Regular coffee in Rhode Island is light and sweet if you want something different from that. So what's the difference is that a coffee milk is so extra light with no sweetener, right, is the way coffee milk would be described. And that's what this is. I mean, my guess is they're using undeodorized cocoa butter. It doesn't say one way or the other. But creamy coffee, nostalgic Rhode Island. Yeah, this takes me back to being, what was I, 23, 24, 25 when I was in Rhode Island, you know, standing at a coffee truck in downtown Providence and trying this. It's, if you've ever been near Rhode Island, you've ever had Rhode Island coffee milk, you're going to want to, or know someone who has, if this is a bar, you're going to want to consider getting for yourself or getting for the coffee milk lover in your life. So the next to the last bar we're going to taste today, and we're getting towards the end of the hour mark, is another bar from Kesho. Again, what's interesting about this bar is that it contains yuzu. So yuzu is a very, very specific Japanese citrus. It has a very, very distinct flavor profile. If you're familiar with it, if you've never run across it, you'd say, this is citrus. I don't know what it is, but it is citrusy. Again, this is a dark milk chocolate. We're using what is normally a fruity bean, Cocoa Kamili, Tanzania, with the yuzu. And what's wonderful about this bar is the aroma of the yuzu on the nose. Sorry about this. I mean, I've got chocolate on my nose, melting on it. But there's this very, very delicate yuzu. So I'm familiar with yuzu, had yuzu a lot. Very delicate yuzu flavor, just really, really wonderful. And it's incredibly well made. The texture is fabulous. Again, I don't know what Cocoa Kamili does for me in this bar in terms of my understanding of what Cocoa Kamili is, but I think that the base fruity profile of the beans combined with the yuzu. And so what happens is you get the yuzu on the nose and it starts off chocolatey and then it goes to fruity and then back to chocolatey. And it ends with this slightly citric, tangy, chocolatey note that, you know, if I had the time just to relax and let it fill my mouth for the next couple of minutes, I would let it do that. There's also a slight astringency sort of in the back and the center of the mouth, which I, would associate with the citrus on its own. And it's just an incredibly well-made bar. Kesho. And this is another example where the packaging has changed since we talked about it. Now, again, this is a bar which has got an unusual opening and closing mechanism. One of the challenges is that you have to be very, very careful about folding the foil back very, very precisely, which for some reason I seem constitutionally incapable of doing. And so it can become a challenge to completely reclose the bar. But the bar is in fact reclosable, so it provides protection for the bar if you're not, if you don't finish the entire thing at one go. And what they've also done here, is they've changed the lettering, the size of the lettering and the colors of the lettering to make it more visible, to make it more readable at a distance. And these also work really, really nicely when there are 3 or 4 bars next to each other on a shelf. Do they tell a story? So also something to consider when you're doing a bar. And then finally, let me take another glass. This is green tea, by the way, even though I think of a beer mug, it's green tea. The gold award winner in the dark chocolate category and the bar that was the highest rated bar in the competition. So this Sweets Escalier, Maya Mountain Belize, you'll see that best dark gold and top overall gold. So it was best in the dark chocolate category and then best overall bar. And, one of the comments that I made as we were getting ready to taste this on Sunday was, one of the things that I love about this bar is just how well crafted it is. And I have to be very, very careful. I mean, is that I think I may have broken up almost all of the bar. I didn't. Is that it's a very, very simple mold. Right? There's nothing usually there. But the temper of this is so good, and the depth of the scores on this is such that it's just a delight to break into small pieces. I mean, and all the pieces are going to be the same size. So if you're sampling, this is the perfect bar, as far as I'm concerned. You get, a reasonable amount of chocolate, right? The mold is very, very simple. Everybody gets the same thickness. Everybody gets the same size. Everybody's tasting the same thing. But there's a tactile sensation of breaking this bar into little bits that just for me is just, I love this bar for that reason. It's really, really good. And at least one other person in the tasting on Sunday evening had exactly the same response to it. Just how fun it was, how pleasant it was to break the bar. And I know it might sound really crazy to be thinking about a chocolate bar in this particular kind of way, but if you're a chocolate maker, consider how the bar breaks and what the tactile sensation is for how your customers are going to be doing it. And if you can get your hands on one of these bars, do it, because they really know how to do it. Really know how to do it well. And then the bite on this is clean. There's no texture defect. There's no textural defect. The chew, same way. Perfectly smooth on the melt. It's a really, really good representation of what the Maya Mountain and the Belizean beans can deliver. So it's a little roast forward, maybe. But the thing that I love about this bar as well is that once it's in your mouth and you've chewed it and you let the chocolate melt, it dissolves. I mean, the texture of this chocolate leaving your mouth is one of dissolving, not one of melting. And that's a characteristic that I think about with one of my favorite chocolate bars of all time, which was the 2006 harvest and the first production of the Cru Sauvage bar by Felklin, using the first beans the first cacao silvestre coming out of Bolivia from the Hacienda Tranquilidad. It also had a texture that I would describe as dissolving rather than melting. And I mean, this is as close as any other bar I've had in memory that recreates that feeling. Different flavor profile entirely, but just really, really delicate, really, really wonderful. I mean, it's a great bar. And, all of the judges loved it. And there's a reason why it received not only the top award in the dark chocolate category, but the top overall award in the entire competition. So yeah, really, really wonderful. And thanks to everybody who participated in the 2023 competition, and everybody who is already getting ready to participate in the 2024 competition. There are 5 official entries. As Dustin said, you go through an entry form where you say, here's the chocolate that I want to enter. And then when he receives the bars, you become an official entry. And already we're seeing a Camino Verde. We've got maybe some Thai. So this is Thai Sakura Smoke. I'm really intrigued about that. And then a DR with vanilla. And so already we're starting to see some interesting entries. I'm really, really looking forward to it. You notice that there's a low-carb chocolate. So it is technically a dark chocolate. So because we're not separating out, we said above 70%, below 70%. Is it a micro batch? Is it a large batch? We're not doing any of that stuff in terms of the way the categories are structured. These are all thrown in against each other. Maybe that's fair, maybe it's unfair, but maybe this bar is now capable of being considered for an innovation award. And that's one of the things that we're also really, really excited about doing. And I want to end today, thanking everybody who's been here the entire time. I want to end today with saying that this is, in fact, the final episode of The Chocolate Life Live. That doesn't mean that I'm going away. It's just that, after 2 years, almost 2 years, what I did is I said, what do I think is going well? What is it that I'd like to change? How would I like to move forward? And what I'm doing is putting an end to the Chocolate Life Live as a name and as a branding for what it is that I'm doing. And beginning this coming Friday, I'm still going to be here on Tuesdays and Fridays, same time. What I'm going to be doing is changing the focus into a format that I call Pod Save Chocolate. And so that's what the brand is. So in the next couple of days, one of the things I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be updating the branding on TheChocolateLife.com. I'm going to be going to YouTube, updating the branding there. And I'm going to be working on a different focus, I think, in terms of many of the episodes that I'm doing. I want to get back to doing more interviews because I think that people have been responding most of those interviews rather than just me as a talking head and talking about all sorts of things which are becoming, I think, issues that we wanted to, issues that as a community, I think we need to discuss. And again, how does Pod Save Chocolate? I bought podsavetochocolate.com. Yay. That's one of the reasons why I did this, is that the domain was available. And I'm going to be pointing the domain to a page on the Chocolate Life. And I'll discuss those this coming Friday. Some of those changes. And if you're a member of the Chocolate Life, you can join now if you want to. I'm signed in. It says account here, but if you're not a member, it'll say join. So you can become a member of the Chocolate Life. And you can join us this coming Sunday. It's at, I believe, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That we'll be doing my monthly AMA for members. So please do that, and we'll discuss it. But my first guest this coming Friday is a friend and colleague by the name of Brigitte Racine. Brigitte is an author. She has a book called The Jaguar and the Cacao Tree, which is an exploration of mythology around cacao in Mesoamerica. She also is the author of a Substack called The Cacao Muse, and she and I are going to be engaging in an experiment in interactive content where she's going to be writing me a letter, which she posts at the Cacao Muse. I'm going to be responding to that letter on the Chocolate Life, and then she's going to respond. So we're going to be ping-ponging back and forth between her Substack and the Chocolate Life around this correspondence. And it's an experiment, and we're going to see how it works. But we're really looking forward to engaging with readers on both the Cacao Muse and the Chocolate Life in a way which is very different from the way we have been in the past. And I want to do a quick shout out to, again, Mike King. Thanks. Great ending. Looking forward to the new content. Have a great Thanksgiving. And yeah, absolutely, everybody. Mike, thank you very much for being here through the end. I enjoyed visiting you in Kansas City this year. I enjoyed tasting the chocolate and judging the chocolate. It was a pleasure and a privilege all the way around to be able to do those things. And look out for the new branding. It's going to be promoted the same way. So if you're on Facebook, in the Chocolate Life on Facebook, you'll see it there. If you're connected to me on LinkedIn, you'll see it there. There'll be a new playlist and new branding of the Chocolate Wire channel. I'm probably going to save it to Pod Save Chocolate from the Chocolate Wire. Just do wholesale change in the branding, and we'll see how things work from there. But in the meantime, everybody, until I see you this coming Friday, remember, if you're working with chocolate and you are not having fun, you are doing it wrong. And if nothing else, I hope you understand that while I'm sitting here talking about these interesting topics and these topics we need to have a discussion about, some of which have a dark side to them, I'm having fun. And thank you for enabling me to have the fun that I am. Until the next time, everybody, ciao.